So chapter 3, he is telling us about argument tenses. And this is just a really quick introduction, and then I'm just going to put a chart on the screen because it actually makes more sense to me when you can lay it out and sort of see the categories. But basically, we're just going to go over what the different tenses are and the different purposes, and then we'll talk more in class about like the different times you might want to use the different tenses and I guess warning signs that maybe you've gone off track.
This is the chart to sum up chapter 3, which talks about argument tenses. So the idea here is the author is trying to distinguish between these three tenses, and we use these in grammar as well. But he here is talking about argument, and basically each of the tenses focuses on something different. So past tense arguments focus on blame. It's not always necessarily whose fault is it. Really, the core question behind past tense is what happened. So an example of this would be like when you're in an argument with someone and you're like, you said this, no, you said this, or I did the dishes last, it's your turn to do them, no, you did it. You're arguing in the past tense. The formal term for that is forensic, and so you've probably heard the term like forensic scientist, and the whole idea of forensic is trying to figure out what happened in the past based on the evidence available now. Present tense arguments are focused on value or values. The formal term for that is epideitic or demonstrative. The book says demonstrative, but epideitic is also the case. Anyway, this is a question of, is something good or bad? Is something right or wrong? Or is something fair or unfair? Those are all value questions. And then future tense is focused on choice, and the formal term for that is deliberative. The question at the center of that is, what should we do? And so examples of that would be deciding, where to go eat dinner, or what movie to watch, or what kind of decision should we make about going to school in person or taking our classes online. Those are all future tense arguments. Present tense arguments are the ones about, like, do we like or dislike things, and so on. And what we'll talk more in class about is what are the advantages and disadvantages of these tenses. And I think the book already says this, and we'll circle back and decide whether we agree or not, but a lot of times the ideal tense for an argument, unless you absolutely need to do past or present, is to focus on the future. Just because the future has a sort of hopefulness to it, hasn't happened yet, there's less blame involved in it, and it's also less subjective than a value question of good and bad and right and wrong and so on. And so the main argument he's making about this is just that when possible, you want to keep your focus on the future, just because that will be better for a relationship, less destructive to it. The fancy word for that is edifying. But you want to stay stuck on the future as much as you can and only visit the past and present when you absolutely have to, just because those can be less productive.